How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Dead Jester Productions podcast. I'm your host, Josh, or Jim Oscars, joined this week by special guest Robert Maiolo, author of the book with no answers. Thank you for being here.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Josh.
I appreciate you. Appreciate you coming on. Happy to have you here. Excited to chat a little bit. Why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself, what you got going on, what you do?
Awesome. Yep. So, hi, everyone. My name's Rob. I live in Toronto. Currently working in the marketing field for a financial institution out here. But more proudly and importantly, the author of the book with no answers. It's a book I wrote last year that I'm really excited to tell you guys about.
Awesome. I do want to touch on this. I also work in marketing. How did you get into it, and like, what do you actually like specialize in, if anything in particular?
Yeah, so right now I'm doing investment advisor websites. So I work at a bank. We got about 1,000 investment advisors across the country, and they each have their own website, and they each have opinions about what that website should look like. So I help them navigate that, help them create it, update it, whatever it is they need to do.
You get a lot of vague suggestions that don't really help explain what it is they want, and then you have to keep giving them ideas and references back. Is that kind of how it goes for you too?
Yeah, that's roughly how it goes. Yeah, exactly. I'm recently spending most of my time trying to figure out how I can do this for myself because they all make about 30 times more than I do and would gladly pay for the services I offer. So that's really where a lot of my thoughts been going recently.
I do a lot of that on the side here both through Dead Jester Productions and then personally outside of that, even though I'm behind Dead Jester Productions entirely. So I do a lot of the marketing, social media management, like the advertising and stuff. And I get a lot of that where it's, hey, I'd like, my website, to kind of like show this off and this off and like have this feature. I'm like, does this look good? No, I was thinking more like, if you could just design it, just come up with something different. It's like, all right, that is the least helpful thing I could have received in feedback. But
well, it's like we can make 50 versions of this website, but I think we both have better things to do. So let's like agree on one.
Yeah, that or getting something like denied and then being offered no alternative where it's like, I don't want to do that. All right, what are you thinking instead? I just don't want to do that. Why? I don't want to do that. Okay.
Just come back with better. Okay. Right. Well, it's a little subjective.
Yeah. Tons of fun. Yeah. I come from a advertising sales background, and that was a lot of the same sort of stuff where we'd be designing ads for people, and it is such a headache. Cause like I think part of it is like they have in their mind, like, oh, these are the, sort of what I think it'll look like. And then they just make up this ridiculous thing in their head, and then it comes back like what an ad will normally look like, and they go, oh, that's not what I thought of. It's like, okay, but this is a better concise way of providing the information.
I think in their minds they thought they were going to be this grandiose Steve Jobs kind of creation of advertising and they were going to go down in some sort of history books, and then you just send them something very practical that will work. And yeah, I know. It's a tough industry.
Oh, you mean this is just like a good surefire way to get this to work? I was hoping would be more entrepreneurial with it.
That's right. What kind of clients do you have?
All over the place. Like I have clients that work in like retail where it's like custom furniture, and I have a couple of authors, like self-published authors that try and promote stuff. I handle larger and smaller. If a number that are just like social media people where it's like, I just want to grow my YouTube account, want to grow like my Instagram or TikTok or whatever. And then I have some that are actually like quote unquote like established businesses where it's like, this is, my restaurant, and I'm trying to grow this. So it's connections I had from past jobs, and then people I've scoped out online or connected with in some way online. But yeah, it's kind of all over the place. One of the ones I work with a lot is a custom wood furniture company, and it's been interesting because the people that own it do not have any knowledge of like how it works. They called themselves what was the phrase? The serial entrepreneurs. And what that means is his dad had money and helped him
Yeah.
start businesses.
He watched a couple of YouTube videos, a couple of TikToks, and he's like, "Why learn how to build furniture
Yeah.
when I can just hire someone to build furniture?"
Yeah. Yeah. Just hire people to do it and then tell them that they're not doing it well enough and then
Hmm.
not know how it's supposed to be done properly anyway. Yeah. But yeah,
And then make a
have been
Shopify
handling.
website.
Yep, Shopify, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I came into it. They had already established like they were I guess 2 years old when I first got in touch with them, and yeah, it's been interesting. I'm at the point where it's like they're not taking my advice at all. So I'm about
Mm,
ready to just be like, we're gonna go ahead and cut this off and go our separate ways.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think some at some every relationship ends, and it's
Mhm.
up to someone to
I
make that
tell my
decision.
girlfriend that all the time, just uh, but anyway, I wanted to get back to a little bit on topic. It was the book with no answers. What can you
Mhm.
explain it for people maybe and how you came to write this?
Yeah, I guess the best way I could explain the book with no answers is I was actually I was and currently am a big fan of self-help books.
Mm,
But my beef with them was they always tried to give answers based on their life. So they essentially
mm,
just wrote one version of a book, put it out there, and said everyone should, for the most part, follow this book.
I see.
And I always thought, like, what would be a good way to write a book that is tailored to the reader? And how can I make a book that if someone reads it, it can be tailored to them, and then if someone else reads it, it can be tailored to that person as well.
Mhm,
And the best way I was able to think of that is, what if I write a book full of questions? Because if you write a book full of questions, every reader that reads those questions will answer it based on their own life.
mhm,
And that was the best way I could think of making a tailored, I like to call it a self-coaching book more than a self-help book, because a book's really not really telling you how to do anything. It's more
mhm,
coaching, it's more enabling you to coach yourself and to ask yourself some hard-hitting questions, some thought-provoking questions that will ultimately allow you to find answers in your life that are tailored to you and who you are. So theoretically, if this one book can be read by 1,000 different people, and
mhm,
they'll each have 1,000 different outcomes, because the answers are different to each of those people based off their life, their passions, their hopes, their dreams, their wants, and all those things. So um, that was kind of the inspiration for the topic of the book. um, and the inspiration for writing a book was much more dire, which was, I was afraid that I was going to die one day and leave nothing behind. And I thought, what's something I can leave behind? And eventually I realized, what never dies? Well, art never dies. Okay,
mhm.
well, I can't paint, I can't draw, I can't sing, I can write, and we can, read a book that's 2,000 years old, and it's still around. So if I can, mustered up the energy and the ability to write a book, then I can find something that lives longer than me. So that's kind of how this all came about.
Nice. I My experience with these style of books in general, like a very, and I speak these styles in very general terms. Like I know, have you ever read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People? Like
Absolutely, yeah,
those sorts of it. Again, this is my personal opinion. Do you ever find those, not necessarily that one particular, but like some of those styles, like self help books, I guess in general, like somewhat condescending at times?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They're like, you don't already know this? What's wrong with you?
Hmm. There's that.
Yeah,
I think what is
absolutely.
First Things First, I think is by Stephen Covey as well. I don't like I said, I've not read a ton of them because like I said, I found them to be like condescending. We read the 7 Habit. There's like I don't remember if it was the 7 Habits we read in school or like a not dumbed down version, but like a student aged version when I was in high
Hmm.
school. And maybe 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens, maybe or something. I don't remember.
Okay.
But we read that in a humanities class, and it was like insultingly like dumbed down where it was like, you know what? Have you tried working? It's like, okay. Have you tried not being a miserable person to be around? It's like, all right, well, God. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Like, how do you avoid sounding condescending when you're writing a book that, I mean, obviously in your case, it's more questions, like asking the reader to sort of self-reflect in a way, as opposed to here's the answer. But like, did you have to find a way to like avoid writing in that sort of style where it's
Yeah,
more
yeah,
open-minded, I guess?
yeah. I definitely try to, the obviously when you write a book, there's 15 versions of it before you finally find the one you want to publish. And the
Mhm,
the first couple ones were a little assumptuous, a little, pretending like I had answers that I didn't actually have because I thought that's what you had to do to make people believe in you is to have all the answers and to know everything, and then people will trust you. Um,
mhm,
but I tried to make the style more of a conversation with a best friend who cares about you. That's what the book feels like. And obviously, when you write a book, the first people that buy it are friends and family. And a lot of
mhm,
them said, because they know me, is that it felt like I was just talking to you. Like your voice carried through the pages, and I felt like we were just having a conversation with a great friend. Um, so to your point about being condescending, well, if you have a good friend, they're they just have your best interests at heart, and they genuinely just want what's best for you. So they're
mhm.
not condescending. They're just trying to just help you find your way and help you find some answers in life. And the title, the book with no answers, is definitely not misleading. There's no answers. There's really not that much advice. It's really
Yeah.
just posing some very common questions that we've all probably heard a billion times in the past in very just easy, digestible ways that everyone can answer it and find
Mhm.
their own answers. And I think that's what helped it set itself apart from the typical self-help book.
Nice. Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like there other than the condescending thing, I pulled it up too while you were talking. Some of the examples in the highly effective teen book, be proactive, which is like, okay, uh,
Yeah.
begin with the end in mind. Just like, okay,
Mm.
put first things first. I'm like, I as you go through these, I'm like, these aren't really useful at a certain point.
Yeah.
Seek first to understood, then be understood. It's like, sure. Think win-win, synergize, and sharpen the saw, which renew yourself, evaluate. Like to me, I was like, some of these things seem like so like blatantly obvious. Where it's like, is this really useful information? Where it's like, oh yeah, I
Yeah.
should do my work and like have a plan. Like, got it, and like listen to other people, like advice. Yeah, it's just I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It
And I
seems
I
redundant, wasteful.
I know, yeah. And then do you find that um it because the problem is the self improvement and the journey of self discovery is super important. But
Mhm,
you find that okay, you sit down, you say, I want to improve myself. Well, maybe an easy way to do that is to buy a book, and then you
mhm.
buy this book, and it's just like slapping you in the face essentially, and it almost does the opposite,
It's like,
where
hey,
you're like, yeah,
dummy,
you
have
know
you
what,
tried doing
forget
anything? Yeah.
it.
Like I get too like where the author could come from in some of these where it's like you have to appeal to like more than just the person who is like experiencing writer's block or just like somewhat depressed or whatever, like whatever. You have to try and appeal
Mhm.
to as many people as possible in order for it to be like an actually like effective writing book like material. But at the same time it's like how far down like the totem pole do you go? Or it's like try waking up in the morning, you
Yeah,
know. It
exactly.
Yeah, but like I said, I do understand like you can't just narrow it down too specifically, otherwise it's not really helpful to most people. But I had the
Yeah.
same. I feel like it's a similar experience you can have in a lot of different aspects, like not necessarily like a self help thing, but more from the perspective of like getting started with a particular business or things like that. Like I notice it a lot with what I do, where like on our website even I have like starting tips for people like getting started on like YouTube, Instagram, so on and so forth. And it I put that out there just for everybody on our site because it's obvious information. And like we have like a, you can sign up to be like partners and things like that on our website. And like we provide, like we'll sit down and like work with people more in depth. It's like I'm not going to charge people to like explain the basics of how like stuff works. And that's what I get frustrated with like some things where it's like, how do I like improve like my search results for on YouTube? And like, have you tried making better content? It's like, all right, well, that doesn't help people. It's same thing with like, have you tried better like tags? It's like everyone knows, like for the most part at this point, everyone knows like hashtags and things like that on like Twitter, for example. Like of course you have to use the right hashtags to get noticed in the results and what's trending and things like that. But how do you stand out from all the other people using the exact same hashtags? And that was one of the frustrating things for me when trying to come up with like a uh, you know, reusable plan for people, or like a guy, like a specific guideline. It's like, all right, here's the, step by step, like how we can work through this. Uh, because there's so much information, especially with the way like the internet is constantly updating, like YouTube in particular, the way the YouTube algorithm works is constantly being changed and tweaked. Like coming up with a way to provide information that's almost always going to be useful to some extent is hard, because a lot of it's just basic or a lot of it is hard to find online. And I feel like that's kind of the same way in some aspects with improving oneself at times, where it's like, yeah, I'm stuck in life. I don't like my job. I need to make more money, but I can't get a better job. Like that sort of thing. I'm sure we all know people that are like that, where they want a better job or they want to move somewhere because where they live now is terrible, but they don't have the money to move somewhere else because they need a better job.
Yeah,
It's like, yeah.
yeah. And I think that, like, in with the current, I guess, generation and the way things are with TikTok and Instagram, I think
Mhm.
when people say, like, when you watch a video and someone's selling a course and
Mhm.
people say, oh, it's a scam, what they
Yeah.
really mean is they're charging you for things you can just Google.
Yeah.
That's what a scam in 2023 is
Mhm.
just charge people for things that if they spent 17 seconds, they could just find themselves. And that's why I like how you do that with your business. And I think it
Mhm.
actually helps build confidence with your customers is like, hey, he's giving me all this information for free on his site. So I know if
Yeah.
I go to him and pay for this consulting service that I'm going to get above and beyond what I would get if I just typed in how to be the next Mr. Beast. Like, you're
Yeah.
going to offer me something that's more than what you could find on Google. And I think that's the same thing with self-help books. And it's, if you ever read comments on self-help books, all of the
Mhm.
negative comments say the same thing. You could just Google everything that's in this book. That's what
Mhm.
people get upset.
Well, like I said, I just Googled what were the 7 habits of highly effective teens, and I got a whole infographic about it.
Yeah,
Saved myself probably like 15, $20 or whatever. But yeah, I
20
actually had a
bucks in three
discussion.
hours.
Yeah, I had a discussion with somebody earlier today about this actually. Buddy of mine, he wants to start his own business, but he doesn't. I mean, he wants to make custom wood instruments like ukuleles. Um,
Whoa.
I actually forget what else he had, violins or something. I can't remember exactly what all he had in mind, but he's like, I don't know anything like marketing wise. He's like, I know how to make stuff. Like he's like, I know
Mhm.
my lane. And yeah, I was explaining to him like, you can do what some people do and just set up like email, like newsletters, right? Where it's just providing information on like what you do, like how it's made, things like that. Like on your website, it's just providing as much information as possible for free and like connect with people other than what I've seen some businesses do, where it's bombard you with just advertisements and just their whole plan is to just get you to buy their product. There's no personality behind it at all. It's clearly a numbers game. And the same thing is kind of applied in a lot of aspects of what I do, where it's more about, especially like online, like personality sells, right? Like that's why influencers and like these popular YouTubers and Instagram influencers are so popular. It's like they're selling themselves essentially. And then at the same
Mhm.
time, making these posts about like, oh, this is what I did today. Oh, also like it's sponsored by whatever. And they're having like little product placements in there and whatnot. But the majority of their time is spent getting people to like them as a person or a creator. A lot of times they're different when the camera's not on, I guess, but to an extent they're selling themselves and their personality to the widest audience possible. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's one thing I learned in doing my day job, which is
Mhm.
helping high net worth advisors, is that the services they offer are not special. Every bank offers
Mhm.
them, and really the knowledge they have. There's a lot of smart people in that industry.
Yeah.
The reason they have their clients is because the clients invest in the advisor, the trust, the
Mhm.
ability to know that they have their best interest at heart, things like that. And even like you were saying with YouTube personalities, like I started playing golf a couple years ago, and I follow this guy Grant Horvat, who's a golf player, but he's like a YouTube golf player. He's not. I mean,
Interesting.
he's not on the professional tour, so he's
Yeah.
definitely, there's people way better at golf than him. But because the reason he has this big following is because he's entertaining and engaging, and is really good at explaining himself, and obviously makes a ton of content. So yeah, people buy from people more than anything else,
Mhm.
and I think a lot of that like quick sell stuff is and you've probably seen this working in the industry you work in, is like a lot of that like drop shipping, buy something
Yes.
from China, sell it for 4x. That's a
Mhm.
lot of like, okay, get the Amazon ad, get the Facebook ad, convert, convert, convert. It didn't work. Okay, try another ad, A/B test like crazy.
Exactly.
Um, and maybe that works if you're just trying to make a couple bucks, but like a long term business, something you love, like the stuff that me and you do, things we
Mhm.
actually love. We wouldn't be doing a podcast at 7 p.m. on a Monday if we didn't love this. That takes time, and I think you know eventually, if you stick with it long enough and you're genuine online, that's what people will buy into is your passion and your authenticity.
Yeah. It's interesting too. Like you said, like over time, it'll like the fruits of your labor essentially will come to fruition. It's interesting watching like a lot of these people where like Mr. Beast, for example, where people are like, he blew up overnight. And it's like, for sure. Like he did become wildly successful, seemingly out of nowhere. But this is also a guy that was online for years before he became like successful. And that's how it is with a lot of these people, where it's like I mean, you can go back and it's like, oh, here's a video I uploaded in 2010. It's like, oh, they have been grinding away at it. They just had that one moment of virality that really jump started everything. But
Yeah. It's hard
no,
to call him an overnight success when he started at 12 years old.
yeah, but yeah, like you mentioned the drop shipping thing, like that's absolutely a thing I've seen working with like some furniture companies where it's like, all right, import this, mark it up 400%, and then we'll do like wholesale like half of that. And it's like, good God, you are making boatloads of cash for seemingly no work whatsoever. But then they
Yeah.
a lot of times too, like it shows because like people get it, they've get a lot of returns because it's damaged in shipping because they're just rushing through, excuse me, they're rushing through the entire process. It's there's no care involved. It's just numbers on a screen essentially. Same thing with like some businesses where it's like the people working there are just warm bodies in a position meant to get like work done. And when I say, I mean like literally just get work done in general. Like they're just thrown around, pushed around to like just get stuff done. And to me, like that's what rubs me the wrong way in some cases too. I'm like, man, just if you put care into this, these people, like the employees, will like respect you a lot more. They'll be willing to like work a lot harder for you because they know that it actually means something to you and you're looking out for their best interests. And then a lot more often than not, it doesn't work out that way.
Yeah.
But
No,
yeah,
yeah,
like you said,
absolutely.
it's all right. Let's get the Amazon ad up. Let's get Etsy. Let's get promoted listings on Etsy. Let's get Wayfair started up. Get some advertising going over on there. Get Google ads up, Facebook ads up. Let's get our email newsletter set up. Scrape this website. Get as many email addresses as we can. Send this out. It's like, all right, you're you're just breezing right through this. I've had so many discussions where it's like you can't just grab people's email addresses and start spamming them with emails and expect them to buy products from you. Doesn't
No, yeah,
doesn't work that
that's
way.
not the way of serendipity of purchase happens. It's more
No.
like, even if, because like, you know, that's not that far from targeted ads on Instagram of saying I'm going to
Mhm.
target this person, but for the user, it feels much more serendipitous if they're scrolling through their feed and they see your furniture store,
Yeah.
and they go, "Oh, okay." Even though it was targeted to them, they didn't know that. They just thought, "Oh, okay,
Mhm.
I see this furniture store. Well, wow, he makes wood violins. This is very interesting."
Yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of those drop shipping people, the reason they do that is because they were told it works, and
Mhm.
sure, it works for, I don't know, one out of 100 people that open up a drop shipping store. But to
Mhm.
think about all the different, bracelet companies, and mosquito trap companies that have opened up for a couple months. They tried some ads, spent $1,000, didn't work, closed, and now they felt like, oh man, I got scammed because I bought this course, I tried this thing and it didn't work.
Right.
Um, I think that all comes back down to like, that's because you didn't give a shit about any of the things you were selling. You just thought
Mhm.
you can make some money because Dan Locke told you could, and now you're you know what I mean, and now $3,000 later you realize it didn't work. Whereas
Mhm.
someone in that exact same position, but doing it for their wood violin company that they love, wouldn't be so discouraged because they go, "This is just part of the process. Okay, these ads didn't work. I'll try these other ads, or I'll try a newsletter, I'll try an Instagram account or a YouTube page." If you love it, you'll just keep going forever because you just love what you're doing. The
Yeah.
reason that some people feel disgruntled or burnt out is because they never loved it to begin with. They just thought it would work.
Mhm. Yeah, that's like I said, that's exactly what it is with the one furniture company that I'm looking at cutting ties with because it is literally that where it's we had a conversation a few months ago where it's like, all right, we just want to, we want our YouTube to get big. Like we want a lot of views on there. We want to build that up so it looks like we're a more organic company. We have this new product we want to, design, get that pushed out. Get more traffic on like our, Instagram, Facebook. I'm like, all right, but like, what are you doing with like YouTube? Just upload video. People like this. It's like upload this. It's like, all right, but there's no personality behind it. This is just like you're just uploading content, just upload content and expecting people to watch it because you're paying to have it promoted. Like people don't want to
Yeah.
buy like from you if you're doing that. And yeah, they I went down, they have like a workshop and I went down there today and I was talking to the guy and the master craftsman and he's like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
He's like, they're coming down here telling me how to do this and they have no idea what's going on. And he's like, I'm the only person that knows how to do this, and they expect me to do the work of like six people. I'm like, I get you, man. I get you. I'm sorry. I just handle the marketing. Don't kill me.
Yeah. To me that sounds like their angle to whatever that guy's name is, to
Mhm.
have him maybe be the face of the company and show that they actually care about
That's
the
that's the
craftsmanship around the furniture.
that's what I told it. They said, oh, you should like put us like on your website and show you work with us. And I'm like, no. I'm like, you don't even put your own faces on your company's website. They have a page like Meet Our Team. They have every employee on there except for the owners. They don't want to be shown. So I'm like, that's telling if you're not willing to stand by your own product. It's
Yeah,
kind of shitty.
that's sketchy.
Yeah, my photo's on our website, on the Dead Dress Productions website. I think I'm on like two different pages, maybe. I know at least one. I put my face on there. To be fair, it's
Yeah,
hard
because
not
you
to see
stand
my
behind your
face
product.
because I'm all over my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Like I'm literally the content is me. But yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I stand by what I do. I feel like if you're not willing to stand by what you do, then maybe you shouldn't be doing what it is you're doing. I don't
Yeah,
know. But
absolutely. And I
sort of
think,
getting go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, no, yeah, I think, if, something for if there's something I can tell your listeners about this
Mhm.
topic is like, the one thing I learned writing a book, especially a book like this where I talk a lot about my past and I talk about some things that I'd honestly rather not talk about, is that the work has to be the reward. It's
Mhm.
the only way you won't be disappointed. And if I just think back and I remember saying, I'm just going to write the book because I want to write a book, and everything
Mhm.
else that happens afterwards, it doesn't matter to me. But
Yeah.
if I said, I want to write a book because I want to get popular on Instagram, I want to start doing public speaking, I want to charge 50K a speech, I want to get on Joe Rogan one day, I would have been very, I would have already been incredibly disappointed because
Mhm.
the odds of those things happening are very
Have you not
low.
been on Rogan?
I have not been on Rogan. No,
Ah,
I mean it's a goal of mine, but if it doesn't happen, I'll sleep fine at night. You know what I mean?
to quote my
Um,
grandfather my entire childhood, just give up.
yeah, just give up.
He does that now. I'm an adult and he keeps telling me to give up every time any issue pops up. I'm like, I'm just changing the light.
Yeah, I'm just trying
So
to boil
true.
some water.
That's literally a true story. It's like, uh, it's so funny. Like my grandfather's one of those people where it's like, he will 100% like get behind like any idea like you have, or it's like, I want to do this. Okay. Yeah. Go give it a shot, whatever. But if it takes more than 5 minutes, he's like, it's just not worth it. It's too hard. It's like, there's scenarios where it's like literally like a light bulb is like on the frit. We have Philips Hue bulbs in our house and like the smart bulbs. And the one was like flickering a tiny bit. And I'm like, oh, I'll take it out. I think there's just something stuck in there. He's like, you just get a new bulb. It's not worth it. I'm like, I can just fix this really quick. Let's get a new one. Like stuff like that. Like, oh, your belt buckle broke. Oh, I can fix that. It just needs a new screw. It popped out. Just throw it away. It's like, I'm willing to put in a minuscule amount of effort just to fix problems. It's fine.
Yeah, that's actually pretty rare for someone from his generation.
It's interesting. It is weird. Because he's not. What is it? It's is it the silent generation? I think is what it's called because it's before baby boomers.
Oh, okay,
I think that's what the generation is
I
called.
think so.
I don't know. He's 87 years old. Good for him. I can't give him a hard time. But yeah, it is funny because he is someone that like worked his ass off his entire life, and now I guess he's just old enough to be like, screw it, can't be bothered to do any of this. But he's like I said, he's very active. He's still outside. He's the guy that like needs his lawn to be like immaculate. Can't have a
Oh,
single
wow.
leaf laying on the ground. Can't have like any sticks anywhere. But if I were to have like a task to do, I should just give up. It's not worth the
Wow.
hassle.
The yin and yang of his personality is actually very fascinating.
It's kind of funny. He's the type of guy that gets disappointed if you don't eat cake and ice cream 2 seconds after finishing dinner. That's who
Oh
he is.
no,
Yeah. Oh man.
I can sympathize with that one. I'm a big cake and ice cream guy, so I can sympathize with that
There's
one.
a plate sitting about 2 feet to my left that had some leftover cake that I finished up before the call here.
Nice.
We had a cake over Thanksgiving into the weekend for no reason really. He just wanted cake, I
Yeah,
guess. So I bought one. We went and
yeah.
visited him.
Who needs a reason?
Yeah, yeah. It's it's like a guilty pleasure thing. Like the people that have listened to the podcast know that I got really into fitness. Let me take that back. I got somewhat into fitness during COVID. I've maintained like
Mm,
trying to put on weight and like bulk up a little bit, get some muscle mass. And I've succeeded in doing so. Eating a bit more healthy, but man, I do still like I have way more cheat days than I should if I'm aiming to be like in really good shape, which thankfully that's not my goal. But like I made chocolate mousse last night, and that's probably the most unhealthy dessert I probably could have made because it's literally just heavy whipping cream, which is not great for you, combined with sugar, combined with chocolate, combined with more sugar and heavy whipping cream.
yeah, that doesn't sound so great. So then, is that? I'm
Totally worth it.
curious. As you went through your health journey,
Mhm.
it sounds like maybe you were a skinnier guy who tried to put on a couple pounds of
Yeah, no,
muscle.
it's exactly what it
Did
is.
you?
Like I was
You know.
like I'm 6 foot, 6 foot 1 ish, like somewhere in between there. Uh, and I had to during COVID, I think I was like at the beginning at least, I was going into that at like 135. or something. I was like, I need to bulk up a little bit, and I've got time. So like I did that, and I would just sit here all day, and like while I was streaming every like 8 or 9 hours a day, every day, I would just sit here and like eat and like snack, not necessarily on like junk food, but like I would just eat like, you know, grilled chicken or whatever. We would buy like boneless, skinless chicken breasts in bulk. I'd have like that. I'd have like little nuts and things like that, just getting a lot of protein. And I just bulked up, and I was sort of working out at the time, but not like I am now. But I was just trying to put on weight so that I had something to like fall back on while I'm exercising and actually like trying to get in shape. And yeah, I mean, it worked out. You can see I don't remember if it was like during the show or if I was talking to him afterwards on our recent 200th episode that was on our web on YouTube. This was the first time I was on camera in ages. And I remember talking to Klaus, who's like my part-time co-host buddy of mine. I was like, man, I'm happy with how I look on camera. This is good.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah,
feeling.
yeah, like it's interesting because like I'm not the guy that like goes into the mirror and like, oh, look at me, I'm looking good, whatever. Like I don't care. I've never really cared about how I looked, but I just wanted to like put on some weight because it's like I'd like to be in decent shape at least. It's nice. It's nice to be in shape, especially since I'm like big into soccer. Like I like. It's been a while since I've been so busy, but a couple like I used to be in like rec leagues for soccer and things like that, and it's nice to be in shape for stuff like that. Not being pushed
Yeah.
around by people who are just in average shape just because I'm too skinny to have any muscle on me.
So were you like me where when you told people it's hard to put on weight, you got absolutely zero sympathy?
Yeah, yeah. They're like, oh, when you get like everyone I talk to, oh yeah, well, when you get older, you're gonna be wishing you wouldn't be able to put on weight. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, but like I have like self control. Like
Yeah.
it's I'm not gonna get to the point where it's like, oh, I need to lose weight. It's like, no, I'll just maintain it. Like if I see like I'm putting on weight, I'll work it off. I'll just manage my diet. You know,
Yeah,
like
dial it back a bit. My buddies always go, "Oh, it must be nice to be able to eat McDonald's every day and not put on weight."
it's
Yeah,
like I
here's the
don't eat.
difference. I don't
Yeah,
eat McDonald's every day.
exactly.
That's the difference between you and me.
Yeah. No, I know. Like that's what it was like. I know when I was a kid, I was always saying stuff like that too. And like I'd have like relatives like, "Oh, I used to be skinny when I was your age. Now I wish I could lose weight." It's like you eat fried food 4 meals out of the day somehow. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
of course you struggle to lose weight.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Weight is very much a math equation. How much you take in versus how much you
yeah.
burn off.
That's
Hard
another
to
thing
argue
too,
with
where
math.
it's like the difficulty in finding information online. Like I know talking with like people I know now, where it's not that they have a bad diet as in they eat a lot of junk food. It's like they don't eat enough calories. They think by like half starving themselves they'll lose weight, and like that's not how it works. Like you can't
Yeah.
eat 800 calories a day and lose weight. Like you'll just stagnate and be miserable all the time.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. No, there's definitely better ways to go about it. That is for
yeah,
sure.
do what I do: eat cake and chocolate mousse, and then
And
work it on
podcast.
and
Congrats on
podcast.
200, by the way. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah. It's 200 episodes for this show. It's probably closer. I'd have to go back and check. This is the fourth like actual podcast I've done. I've probably done close to like 500 or 600 episodes of podcasts over the years now. It's freaking insane. I don't.
Yeah.
You
What?
mentioned like having the work be the reward, and like I think the podcast is a good example of that for me, where it's like I just do this because I enjoy it. There's a while like I still have them in the description. Like we would do ad reads and things like that, and I just got tired of doing them. I was like, I don't really make any money off the podcast. I'm like, so whatever. I'd rather not have them interrupt the flow of the show and just have fun talking. Yeah, for the most
Yeah.
part, like
Yeah.
now
Exactly.
I just do what I enjoy. That's why I stopped streaming. I just didn't enjoy it anymore. I do have ideas for YouTube stuff I want to do, but it's just I'll get around to it when I feel like it. It's not a pressing matter. I have other stuff
Yeah.
I'm having more fun with at the time.
Well, streaming
It's
is a
exhausting.
grind.
It's
Yeah.
absolutely
It is like
exhausting.
your only hope is if you're doing it 6, 7 hours a day.
That's
And
I did
if
it
you're not
8 between
14
8
years
and
old,
9
I don't know
hours a
how.
day. Between 8 and 9 hours a
Yeah.
day, 7 days a week, I did that during the lockdowns in COVID. And to be fair, it did pay
Yeah.
off. And then I was like, "I need health insurance because I have medical bills." And so I went back to my real job at the time, and I'm like, "I should have just stuck with Twitch."
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't worth it at the time. I left, like, 3 months later. I was like, "I hate it here. I'm leaving." I was like,
I
"Ugh,
don't know.
oh, well." Hey, at least now my Twitch channel is dead, all the momentum I built up is gone.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
Twitch is a tough one.
it
But
was
again, like, yeah,
exhausting. I don't miss doing it realistically.
no, no. If you unless you're 14 years old, I don't know how you possibly stream that much. I don't
Mhm,
get. So I get when you're a popular streamer. If you're like
mhm,
I show speed or something like that. Okay, sure, I understand doing it. You make $15 million a year,
yeah.
but to stream that much and there's like three dudes watching it, and you just hope that the next time there's four or five. Just
Mhm.
that grind is very admirable. I
That's
don't know how
sort of
people
what it
do
was
it.
like at first for us. Like the first week, it was sort of like that, and then for whatever reason, we just got like you said, like 4 one day, 5 the next day, sort of thing, and then we got like 10. Then it jumped to 25, and then after a couple weeks, we got Twitch affiliate, and then a couple months later, we hit partner, and I was like, all right, cool, we have like a couple hundred people watching. This is neat. And
Mm,
we had like people were donating a little bit, not don't get me wrong, it's not like people are donating hundreds and hundreds of dollars, but like we had
mhm,
donations coming in at least, and I was like, this
mm.
is cool. But it wasn't enough to like make a career out of it. I think had I kept streaming, it would have just stagnated and then fallen off realistically, because I
What
would
were
have
you
burnt
streaming?
myself out. It was whatever the viewers recommended. I would just be like, all right, pick the
Mm,
next thing we do, next game we play, next thing we do on stream, and they would just pick random stuff, and we would use their donations. We had split up. They could donate, and then that would be like that would pay whatever game they'd pay for whatever game they wanted me to play or whatever. Or we had a an Amazon wish list that they could donate to, where they could just buy random products and then send it to me, and I would use the products whatever they were. More often than not, it was like food, like random foods and things like that. They're terrible. We
mm.
had what is it, Rocky Mountain oyster jerky? It's like bull testicles, like dried bull testicles essentially.
Jesus.
That was literally painful. Like
Yeah,
it didn't taste terrible. It was just nothingness, but it was so dry that I like it literally hurt my teeth trying to pull it off and like bite into it. That was probably the worst experience I had streaming, just because it how physically painful it was. I was like, I can't finish this, guys. I'm sorry. But
yeah.
yeah, that like dried insects and things like that. Just
Mm,
all sorts of weird things. Yeah, I did eat on
interesting.
stream. They could donate to like get whatever game they wanted to play, things like that. So I think having the viewers in charge of the stream effectively helped bring in more viewers, because like, oh, I want to bully this person online.
Yeah,
But it was all fun. We had a good time.
that's a good one. I got really into what there's like a cricket protein powder. I got really into cricket protein powder for a while.
Interesting.
I I somehow got convinced that it's a and maybe it is a more sustainable source of protein for the environment. So
Mhm.
I was like, let's give it a shot. Let's see what cricket. I thought I was buying cricket protein powder. Turns out I actually just bought ground crickets, which is
Nice.
significantly different than cricket protein powder because it's not mixed with anything. So I
Mhm.
would make a smoothie and open up the ground crickets and put it in there. It's just like the smell from the bag and then the smell from the smoothie was just like brutal. Um, so I think there's a way to make it popular if you could figure out the grossness of crickets, but
Mhm.
um,
I
it was
think it
also
was
really expensive too. I'm like, why is crickets? Why is it so expensive? Why is it like $30 for like a quarter pound bag or something like that?
yeah. I think it was crickets they sent me, like flavored ones. It's not on the list anymore because they had already ordered it, so it disappears immediately. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, it was like they were tiny little boxes, probably like roughly the size of a credit card, dimensional wise, obviously like a little bit thicker than that. But it was they had like flavor, like I think it was like salt and vinegar, maybe barbecue or something. I can't remember. But like every single the salt and vinegar one I could taste because it tastes like I don't like salt and vinegar, but you could taste the vinegar on it. It was like ugh. But like for the most part, they were just it was like eating grass. Like it was just like a very light crunch as you'd eat it. And I was like, all right, this could be worse. Like I didn't hate it. I just didn't like salt and vinegar flavor. Like that. We have wild game meat sticks, which is just a bunch of exotic like beef jerky essentially, where you have like kangaroo, alligator, uh, what is this? Turkey. I don't even know what some of these are. A pig. But yeah, you got like stuff like that. There's like the weird flavored sodas, uh like an edible scorpion, octopus jerky, canned rattlesnake, like things like that. They just loved that. They got mad because I did a stream in Dark Souls 3 where I promised every time I die I will take a shot of hot sauce. And I set it up so I forget if I had armor on or not, but I know I used a broken straight sword, which is the weakest item in the game. And I died like 8 times over the course of the game only. And they're like, "Oh, come on." And so like we'd start doing like challenges in the middle of it where it's like, all right, we're gonna like fight these guys as well. We don't even have to do this. We're gonna do this just to see what happens. Just so that they could see me do like more shots of hot sauce. Because it was a game I was super familiar with. So I wasn't struggling in the slightest. So that was kind of a charity on their behalf, I guess. Letting them do that.
Man, COVID lockdowns were a wild wild time. They led you to do a bunch of wild things.
Yeah.
Speaking of wild, we
Mhm.
met on Reddit.
Yes.
What are your thoughts are on well, I think we met on the podcast subreddit.
Podcast guest exchange.
What's your experience there? Yeah.
It's interesting. Like we've gotten a lot of guests from there. I reach out to a ton of people on there because I just like talking to people on the show here. I'm happy to have pretty much anyone on. There I've had a lot of good experiences with Reddit. Sometimes people reach out and I guess they get like cold feet maybe, which I'm like, fair enough, whatever. I'm not gonna give them a hard time about it. I've had people reach
Mm.
out directly through our website as well. And sometimes that's funny. Like we've had I forget how many episodes ago it was. One or only a couple episodes ago we had uh people on to maybe it was longer ago because I lose track of it. Yeah, episode 201. Devin Sarna. She's like a public speaking coach. And yeah, that was another one where she just contacted me through the website. We had a guy reach out once who was he was running for office, I think, like a political office. I think I forget exactly what he was doing at the time, but he was a mayor from New York, not the city, but like the state. I forget where exactly. Who had like gotten arrested for like embezzling funds, and it was I of course I like do like some research into the guests if I'm able to. Like a lot of times on Reddit you can't because it's just random people reaching out. Um, but in his case, I was like, oh, this is like an actual person I can find. And so I like Googled his name and it's like this whole list of like, oh, embezzled funds, like imprisoned for some amount of time, got in trouble for this or whatever. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. But like his message was so funny because it made no mention of like any of that sort of thing. Where it's like, hey, I was, you know, a political candidate at one point. I'm a retired firefighter. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. It's like the 180 is just like, oh, this is very different than what I thought this is going to be. I was trying
Yeah.
to find.
Yeah.
I was
Oh
seeing if I
man.
could find the email I got from him because I was very. Oh yeah, this is what it was. I'd love to be a guest on your show. I'm a retired firefighter, legislator, mayor, union rep, and new podcast host. And I was like, oh, cool. I looked them up. I was like, oh, and I even still, I was like, oh, you know what? I've said it before on the show, and I continue to say it. I will have anyone on the show as long as they're not like spewing hate. Essentially, I'm like,
Hmm.
whatever, give people a platform as long as it's within reason. I'm happy to have anyone on. Everyone deserves to have like at least a platform to, even if like I'm arguing with them, it's fine. Like we need to have some discourse. I can't just sit here and agree with everybody all the time. You need to have more than just
Yeah,
my opinion. So like I'm like, yeah,
yeah,
you can definitely come on the show. And then I was like, do you mind if we like mention this? And then I never heard back from him.
yeah. Do you think I can bring up your embezzlement from the state of New York?
Yeah,
Uh,
it was it was interesting. But yeah, going back to your original question, I guess we've had good luck from Reddit. We've gotten a ton of guests from there, not just even from podcast guest exchange, uh, just from Reddit in general. Like I do a ton of, I don't post a lot. It's very rare I post anything on Reddit or comment anything. Um, but I go through like small YouTubers, YouTube startups, like things like that, where I will go through and reach out to people who are like posting stuff for content creation related areas and just see like, hey, would you like to come on? Like I'd be happy to chat with you about your channel and this and that. And like it helps promote them. Even smaller creators, like it doesn't benefit me at all to have like a small creator on the show. They don't have like an established audience that's going to come in and listen to the episode. But like I just enjoy talking with them. And if anything, like I can drive a few viewers, listeners, whatever, over to their content. Happy to do so if people enjoy listening to them on here. I've contacted people directly on YouTube as well. We had the amazing Pat on months ago. I forget what episode it was at this point. He's a YouTuber. I just saw one of his videos on YouTube, went to his channel and was like, oh, this is cool. Contacted him. He came on the show. Been chatting with him since. It's good stuff.
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I think that goes back to you just seem to really enjoy YouTube and conversation,
Mm-hmm.
and if you keep that up, then how could you ever be like it's easy to wake up and do a podcast or in this case, stay up at 7 p.m. on a Monday and do a podcast when just like the conversation is good enough for you and you meet a new YouTuber and learn something about it. Yeah, I get a lot of that you have a lot of passion and care and you're just genuinely very curious individual about not only YouTube but just about people's stories and their backgrounds and just trying to learn as much as you can.
Yeah. Like I said, I just thoroughly enjoyed talking with people. It's
Yeah.
one because I learn a lot about different areas of expertise. Like I've had authors on and I like to write a lot, but I have
Mhm.
no idea like how to go about publishing or anything like that. And like we've had guests on that have self-published through a variety of means and it's super informative to me. We've had like film producers on talk about like the process of getting a film, like the budget for it and everything like that, and getting like casting and just all the different processes involved from start to finish in making a film. Like mental wellness. We have friends that are paramedics. We had them on super early on in the show, but just people from all sorts of different fields. It's fascinating to me listening to like their stories, their backgrounds and like all about their career fields, and it's super interesting to me learning about all these different things. So like I'm always happy to chat with people, even if it's not something like I would normally have like an interest in. Like I said, like mental wellness at the time. I was just like, I have no idea how this fits into our show, but I'm happy to talk about it. Great episode. Loved chatting with her.
Mhm.
It's just fun. I just thoroughly enjoy it. By the side
Yeah.
note, by the way, I had to pull up I pulled up the news report on the guy I was talking about. Is a wire fraud scheme to defraud his supporters by stealing campaign contributions for his personal benefit. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
good
that's not what you
stuff.
want to see in a candidate.
No, no, it's not. It sucks he didn't want to talk about it.
That is unfortunate. And one thing that you're talking about the self-publishing process. I obviously did a lot of research around what it takes to publish a book and the steps around it. And thankfully with Amazon, it's super easy to go around the actual logistics of getting your book published and printed and stuff like that. But
Mm,
the process of writing a book, I don't think anyone quite prepared me for how insanely painful it can sometimes be,
mm,
especially um, the editing part. Because I think I'm a decent writer, but my ability to use the right punctuation and grammar and to edit properly, I think is probably pretty limited.
yeah.
So I hired a professional editor, and what they don't prepare you for is when you write a book. Anyone who's read the book will know there's a lot of parts in there that are incredibly, deep and personal, and I really put
Mm,
myself out there. And as painful as that is, it's even worse to go through all that and show your editor, and they go, not that great. That is somehow even worse because you think like, okay, I'm going through the painful process of putting myself out there, but at least the audience will appreciate it. And then
yeah.
you go through all that, and they go, you know what? I don't really think you should even put it in the book. It's not that engaging. It's not that good. And
Mm,
that is a tough pill to swallow when it comes to creating. The toughest part,
I,
YouTube, streaming,
mm,
writing a book. The toughest part is putting yourself out there and nobody gives a shit. It is the
mm.
the the hardest part that you are really not really prepared for until you go through it and experience it. I'm sure you've gone through it. You put out these great podcasts, or you put out a great
Oh,
YouTube video, and
absolutely.
maybe three people listen to it, and it's just like, yeah, it's rough. It is a rough grind, but
The
it's comforting to know that anyone who's ever been successful at this has done the same thing, has gone through the same
mhm.
process. But yeah, it's tough.
I had a similar experience. People know, like, listening to the show, anytime it's an episode where it's just me, it's basically an episode where I'm just venting to an extent, where I'm talking about like personal issues or whatever. And there was an episode a while back. I forget if it was the beginning of this year or the very end of last year. Like my grandmother was in like hospice care and in and out of the hospital dealing with uh, cancer and a number of other issues, like partial dementia. And I had an episode where I'm like talking about it, and I got a message afterwards where it's like, you need to have guests on your show because nobody wants to listen to this shit. And I'm like, Jesus.
Jeez.
I'm like, thanks for the feedback. I'll let my grandmother know. Uh, yeah. There's,
Yeah,
I've
it's
probably
brutal,
done
man. The internet's
10 to
brutal.
15 like solo episodes over the course of this show. Uh, where like sometimes it's like a guest, just the schedule doesn't work out, or they have a last minute like issue or something. I'm like, all right, well, the show must go on. So like it's
Mhm.
stuff like that, or my schedule doesn't work out, or I don't have enough time to schedule a guest and I'm on vacation or whatever. So I'm like, I'll just record. And that's what it usually turns into. And yeah, it's funny. Like I've gotten feedback a number of times on those episodes, and that one I shared is like to me the funniest one because it's like, I get it, bro. I'm just talking. Like you don't need to be here. It's like
Yeah,
we're like 180 episodes in at this point. Why are you here? If you're gonna have a hard time listening to me tell my stories, I don't know what you're listening for, but it happens. But
yeah. But the one comforting thing is, and I'm sure you've heard this before, is you'll never get shit on by someone who's doing better than you, or who is doing what you're trying to do. Anyone who's been through the process of trying to
mhm,
build a podcast or build a YouTube page, they will just be over the moon supportive of what you're doing and be
yeah,
very constructive. It's only people who have never created a piece of content in their life who will
mhm,
message you and say, this was terrible. You don't know what the fuck you're doing. Like, only people who just consume would ever say stuff like that to you. Anyone
yeah.
who's been through the process would always just be very encouraging and very helpful. And those are the people I'm trying to listen to more than anything else.
Mm. It is interesting too, like on the opposite side of things, like the weird dynamic where going through like a lot of the subreddits, like I mentioned earlier, like small YouTubers and so on and so forth, the people doing like, oh, I just hit 100 subscribers and 500 views or whatever. Ask me anything. It's like, Like, I don't want to be rude to these people, but like at the same time, it's like no offense, but like that's not like a milestone. Like, like 100 subscribers. Like, good. I'm glad. Like, I'm genuinely glad that you did this. Like, and that you're proud of your work. Like, gaining subscribers is not easy, right? It like you're doing something here, yes, but it's like, are you in a position to like provide like knowledge and support to people that are essentially in the same boat as you? Like it is interesting. Like the smallest amount of success, people are like, I know what I'm doing. Come to me for answers.
Yeah, that's like everyone's trying to climb a staircase, and everyone's on the
Mhm.
first step, and you're on the third step, and you're like, "Hey, I'm on the third step. Ask me anything on
Yeah,
how I
I
got
want
here." It's like,
I,
okay, well, I'll be there soon, pal. Just give me a second.
I want to mention. I forget if I talked about this on the show. There was a girl on Reddit in, I forget what the subreddit was, where she was asking for advice on how to like market like on Instagram, like how to sell her product on Instagram. And she's like, yeah, I sell books, and I'm looking to like figure out how to sell them on Instagram. People are giving her feedback, and I don't comment or anything. I just click on her profile and I'm like, what is she? I'm like trying to see like what it is she sells. And I find her profile, and like one of her previous posts was like talking about like her products. And I click on it through to her website, and she sells books on how to become successful on Instagram. I was like, this is hilarious. You're selling books on how to be successful on Instagram, and you're on Reddit asking for help growing your Instagram page in order to sell your book on how
Yeah,
to be successful. I'm like, you're putting the cart before the horse here.
yeah, yeah. I think that's what some people think they need to do is they need to put on this persona like, hey, I got it all figured out. Check out how great I am.
The fake it before you
And
make it
then they
sort of mentality.
Yeah, and then they think people will buy in that. But I think people, as time goes on, people are much more interested in um, either you've genuinely made it and you're taking some time to you know talk about it. That's why Elon Musk will do 3 podcasts, but when he does, they get
Mm,
50 million views because
yeah.
he's been there and can talk about it. Or on the other side, you haven't made it, but you're talking about the steps you're taking, the work you're doing, and people can kind of get like excited and buy into your journey and your process, and they feel like they found a young Steve Jobs or a young
Yeah.
Mark Zuckerberg or something like that, and they're following you along. I think you know if you are just starting out, just embrace the fact that you're starting out and find the beauty in that and then communicate that with the people around you. And I think people are much more interested in that than you sitting
Mm,
there pretending like you've got all the answers when you clearly don't. It's going to show through.
yeah. People give me a hard time about that, where they're like, because like I said, like I work with people like on YouTube, and to like I explain to people, I'm like, listen, I will explain the basics of YouTube to you and how to market on YouTube, right? But people give me a hard time, like, well, you're not a successful YouTuber. I'm like, I'm not trying to be. Like, our podcast is automatically uploaded to YouTube. Like, I'm not doing anything with that. I'm not marketing it in the slightest. So of course it's not doing like exceptionally well on YouTube because I'm not driving traffic there. I mean, I don't know the last time I physically went in and uploaded a video to YouTube that wasn't automatically moved over. Like I did I did do that. I forgot I did this a couple months ago. I streamed Starfield. Completely forgot about that I even did that. I streamed Starfield and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Blows my mind. That's how time flies by. But yeah, like it's been over a year since I uploaded an actual video that was meant just for YouTube. And people give me a hard time about that. And it's like, you really think I'm taking that seriously? It's like I'm into like advertising and marketing, not YouTube content creation. The last video I uploaded
And it's
got
also
14,000 views. Like, don't give me a hard time.
you're not sitting there saying, "Hey, you want to get 10 million views on your next video? Call me. I'll make it
Yeah.
happen." Like you're not making these grandiose promises.
I'm just explaining to them, like I said, like the people I work with generally, it's like I'm explaining the basics of it and how like the marketing side of it works. I'm not telling them how to make the content or anything like that. I would say for what we
Yeah.
did over the course of like essentially a year, our YouTube did pretty well. We had a couple thousand subscribers at the time. We were getting views on a lot of them. I was proud of what we did. I mean, our Back for Blood, we got, how many episodes did we do of that? 12 episodes. Every one of them got a little over 5,000 views. My Mario Party video is an hour and a half long. We got 53,000 views. I'll fucking take that. People give me a
Yeah,
hard
exactly.
time.
And it's also like what percentage of think of all the people that make YouTube content. What percentage of them are getting over,
Well,
10,000 views or something like
that's
that?
the
It's a
funny thing too. Like
fraction.
the people give me a hard time about it. I'm just like, bro, what are you fucking doing over there?
Yeah.
You, you got 8 videos uploaded and 7 views combined between them. Like, don't give me a hard
Yeah.
time. Like, I'll fucking work with you, whatever. But don't give me a hard time just because I'm not trying, like, working my ass off to build up something. Like, I'm not interested in doing that. I'm interested in doing the podcast to chat with people and marketing. Like, that's what I'm interested in right now.
Yeah.
But
I'll never
whatever.
understand trashing someone for trying. I'll never understand it.
They're trashing me for not trying. Dude, you suck at,
Yeah.
that's like complaining like, dude, you suck at football. It's like, I don't play football. Fuck you. You suck at it.
Yeah.
It's like, all right. I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
uh, anyway, I don't know. Was there anything else you wanted to add here? We're a little over an hour here.
I think we're good. I appreciate you having me on. This was awesome.
Awesome. And where can people can go to Amazon, get the book with no answers? Right?
Yeah, you can look it up on Amazon. The book with no answers. Unlocking the Power of Questions for a Better Life. It's available on Amazon in paperback, and also on Kindle if you're into that. Really encourage anyone to check it out. But I encourage you, if you feel like sometimes the days are turning into weeks and they're blending in, and you're not sure kind of where you're going or why you're going there, or any of those things. If you're looking for a book that might help you figure these things out on your own, and just you know be a good friend along the way to encourage you to ask yourself some questions. I think the book is for you, and really the message of the book is, although it's fun to wander into forests and find answers, you will be surprised at the amount of answers you have in your own soul and in your own heart and in your own brain. And I think this book will help you find those. So I encourage everyone here to give it a chance. And if anyone else wants to reach out to me, my email and my Instagram is in the book, so you have to buy the book to find it.
Oh, there you go.
But my Instagram is at Robbie Axelrod. Robbie Axelrod, as in Axelrod from the TV show Billions. Feel free to hit me up. Happy to chat. And thanks, Josh, for having me on.
Awesome.
I appreciate it.
We'll put all the links in the description for you guys. Go check out deadjesterproductions.live. Got links in the description for that as well. Thank you guys for listening. It's been episode 206 of the Dead Jester Productions podcast. See you guys next time. Bye.